Thank you so much, Pastor. So I had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Mueller for the radio program we do, and I've watched a number of his presentations on YouTube, and you can too if you Google his name. We were very privileged to have him here. When I tried to get him for the radio program, he was in New Zealand one week, then the next week he was in Australia, and I think 2 weeks ago he was in Italy, and then back to Germany, and then over to here. So I don't know how Magda got him, but we did. So we're very blessed to have him here. Now, what he's noticed, he's an ear, nose, and throat doctor, ENT doctor, and he, trained very scientifically, but he's noticed a distinctive pattern in disease. Just like if I release my phone, you can predict which way it's going to go. Same with this pattern. He calls it the law of life because it's a law, just like the law of physics. It's the pattern is very consistent, very consistently seen. So I think you'll be blessed. I think it's an incredible part. We in medicine are not really trained to look at this aspect, but I think it's very, very important, and I think you'll be blessed by it. Dr. Mueller and I also share something else in common. He has a name like Horst Mueller, which is very German, and I have a name like Sorin Isparescu, which is very Romanian. But he and I were both born in the same country, and he's of German descent, but born and raised in Romania, and his wife is Romanian. So we're very blessed to know them. Dr. Mueller, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. So good evening. It's my privilege to be here. It's always a privilege to be somewhere, meeting new people, and having the privilege to share such a nice message. I'm very excited of the privilege that I have to share about what I learned in this 14 years I'm in my practice. I'm now 54 years old, and I was trained usually like in every at the university in Germany. I did my residency and I became an ENT specialist. And since 14 years, I work in my own practice, 3 days a week. And in the last couple of 8 years, and then 4 days I travel doing the seminars that I do. Here in my practice, I learned that what you don't learn in medicine at school. You know, usually you don't learn in the school what matters. You learn it only after that. And I must say what I learned there is that what I share, it's a study that I did on my patients, and I was put to do this because you have patients that put to the doctor questions. And those questions the doctor cannot answer. And you see, would you like to have a profession where you cannot answer a question? Where you just say, well, I don't know. If a person comes to you and says, well, my nose is running all the time, or it's closed, or my ear is ringing, doctor, where does this come from? I would say, well, let's see. Have your ancestors have it? Or you look to the family history, and if you find 2 or 3 of the family that have the same, then you say, well, that's inheritance. You have to cope with it. That's not a big deal. But usually when patient came to me, and I still remember this one case of this elderly gentleman who asked me the question, why is my both ears are just shutting down at all? You know, it's a tube dysfunction through the tube doesn't function well. You know it when you go up the hills and down, and you see that you have to do the pressure equilibrium there, or yes, I hope that's the right English word. However, I said, well, you have to drink more water. And so I sent him home to drink more water. That's what I learned from my professor. And then he came after, I don't know how many weeks back. I said, doctor, I drink now 3 liters of water, and my ears are still doing the same thing. And then I said, well, a half a liter would do it. More, yes? So 3.5. That's how we just deal sometimes with things. If that dose doesn't work, you just rise the dose, but would I be true to myself? I mean, would I be true to my profession, just, I say so, doing something without knowing exactly what I do? And so I was very unsatisfied because I could not answer the question, why do I have this? Where does it come from? And especially when you have then cancer or other diseases, I just could not know it. And so where to go to know it? Because I wanted to know it. I wanted to know exactly when my patient comes and says to me, "Doctor, my nose is bleeding," or whatever they come to me, I should exactly know immediately that's the cause. Because that's how professions should work, should it? Because if you don't know the cause, you just treat symptoms like without knowing what you do. Just 2 weeks ago, I had a 33 years old lady. She came because in the morning when she woke up, her right ear was ringing loud. And so, yes, I said to her, and she said, "Well, I have to do something about it because it's really loud. And what can I do about it?" And so I said, "Do you know why you have it?" Does she know it? No. So she's 33 years old. Usually when people come to the doctor, they want an emergency help just to remove that symptom, and then everything should be fine. But I have learned that the human being is one. It doesn't matter where the symptom comes, if it comes in my field or somewhere else in the body, you have to know where it starts. And so this lady, I said to her, "I know why you have this. It's just because the way you think." Now usually people are not very happy when I tell them that they have a problem the way they think. But of course, I said, I could give you hydrocortisone and high dose, yes, to push against that tone. That's what generally is there as a therapy. But that would not be anything that I would do with a clean conscience. Because when I started 14 years ago, I did those therapies and I saw that I didn't help patients, they got worse. And so I said to myself, I have to find out the cause and to know what happens. And now after 14 years, I'm very glad to know the cause and to just help people to understand what is behind it. And so when I explained it to her, I could not explain it, in total because I need time then to consult. And but she was happy. She said, "I'm surprised because I thought I come here, you give me some thing that removes it." And I said, "It will go away by itself." Even after 20 years, I have a patient that the noise was gone in the moment she solved the cause, which I couldn't solve. Yes? So let's see what determined me to study and to go and find. Because there are no studies out there, no books written where you can find the cause. If you go to Dr. Google, he's the most specialist doctor. He will give you a lot of answers, but the answer on why, he won't give you. And so I found out, looking to my own patient and comparing their physical and their mental state, that what they had in their body and what they were going through. I saw not long after I started to do this evaluation, putting them side to side, that there was a very clear connection. And after a while, I saw the pattern. And the pattern never changed. It is always clear in every human being. So I started then to see that stress, anxiety, conflicts are in the humans that bring him into trouble. But let ask me, what is stress, anxiety, and conflicts? And I try just to give a few definitions because they're not defined really, you know. There's no definition for stress. Someone says stress is this, and stress is good stress and bad stress. You know, I am just very simply saying all that what makes sick and gives you no peace is wrong. Yeah? So that what makes sick, that cannot be good, no matter how you call it. And so I try to show that we have in our life, in our environment, we have three types of things we encounter. We have a space where we have to live. Are we? Can we live without space? No. We are put in a time. Can we live outside of the time? Is the time unidirected or is it going in two directions? It goes only in one direction. And then we have people around us. What do you think is more dangerous? The space, the time, or the people? What makes us most sick? It is our society. It's where we live, in our family. The problems are not lying far away from our homes. But why is it so? Why is the situation in the family and in those nearest relationship the most dangerous thing? And out of that, of course, comes other problems as well. So let's try to give a short definition of stress. It is usually a conflict with the time. I would call it so. Most people live in the past. They want to go back to change something in the past, but they cannot change. Or they have worries because they want to go today in advance. I just have a lady right now. She has a dog. And she has to go to work with the dog because she cannot let him home alone. And now her contract finishes where she works because her boss goes into retirement. And now she searches a job where the dog is accepted. And she's just upset because next year she has to start a new job, or in October sometime. And she does not know, shall she take a job without being the dog allowed to? And now she's in a full stress, she's fears, she cannot sleep in the night, she wakes up because she tries what to control? The future. Can you control tomorrow? No. So why not waiting for tomorrow with joy? Wouldn't that be more smart? You just expect tomorrow to be better than today. How would you feel today then? You would feel fine. But you see, there's something that doesn't allow you to feel good today because you try to fix today tomorrow. How smart is that? It's just nonsense. And you will see that our diseases and all our problems, stress, is irrationality. It's trying to do something that you never are able to do. I'm so happy that disease is not, the cause of disease is nothing smart. It's, I could call it stupidity, but leave it a bit later to see where it comes from. Because we cannot get sick from wisdom, from things that are really possible for us to do. But to move in time, who can? Anyone here? In the movies, you know, you could. When we were more young, there were movies that thought you go back in time, and there might be movies that go back, they go forward. But there is none of us possible to do that. We are bound in time, and no one can move in time. He just go with the present. But isn't that a sad thing, that you cannot forget the future and to live in the present, and that you cannot expect tomorrow to be better than today, awaiting tomorrow to be worse or unsecure, and people are really, really under a problem. So anxiety and fear. It's a conflict with space and circumstances. Have you ever feared bacteria? Do you fear bacteria? Bacteria, viruses, microorganisms, do you fear them? I tell you, many people, they fear those things. And I have a lady, she's only 27 years old as a patient, and she just takes the shoes one time when she goes out. And then she has to cook them, sterilize them. Well, you know what leather does when you put them in the wash machine. And after doing this, you know, fear and all these things grow, increase in time. And so now she only can walk once with the shoe outside, and then they are contaminated. She cannot wear them anymore. And so I said to her, how did you survive your childhood? You see, when we were young in Romania, we were growing up in the country, we didn't have shoes. We just went barefoot all the time. Only when we we had one shoe for a year or two, because, you know, it's unimaginable. And you took them only when you have to go out somewhere, but at home and when you played, we all played barefoot. We entered into some nails because it was not a real sterile environment we lived through, and nothing happened. We had ticks all day long, and, you know, there was no Borrelia dead back then, and all that. So, when people fear things, they try to control the circumstance. Have you ever tried to control circumstances? Yes or no? Yeah. We try, but the more you try to control the circumstances, the more you narrow your space. Fearful people don't go into the airplane, they don't go into the elevator, they don't go on heights whenever they go, because they take away their own space. Because they want to control something that is not under their control. Is that smart? You see, but it is not controllable because it's not something they can control. I see that the controlling of the circumstances is not the best thing. So we have to live with it. We have to see by tomorrow we do a better technical connection. But this is due to this slow internet, but I hope tomorrow we do it better. However, I hope it connects sometime. So when you fear things, you try to narrow your space. A young girl, she's 18, and she came to my practice with her mom because she got a reference to come to an ENT doctor to teach her how to get out of fear. I'm very happy that as an ENT you can treat everything if you know how humans function. Sometimes my patients are very surprised because they come to me with their here, and I said, what do you have else? And I said, well, I have this, and I have, and then I said, what do you have else? No doctor asked me ever what I have else. Why do you want to know this? Oh, because I have to know your whole being. Because when I know all your symptoms, I know exactly your problem. Because your body tells me a story that no one can tell you except you know how the body works. So, did it connect? Yes. So it's a miracle. So I tried to, this girl didn't go to school anymore because she finds school a dangerous place. Now, are schools dangerous? Yes, they are. But they are also in Germany. But there was no really a danger in the school. It's just that she had a problem that she could not solve, and so she projected it in the school. So no one can force her now to go to school. She's 18, but she could not do it right. So depression is a conflict with society and people. Why do we fight with each other? Why does a husband and a wife have issues? Why do parents fight with their children? This young lady that was 33 years old had her ringing in the ear because she has a daughter that is 5 years and a half, and she fights with the daughter. Why does she fight with the daughter? Should any parent fight with his daughter when she's 5 years old? But why we do it? What does the mother want? The good or the bad? The good. Is control good or bad? I can't hear. No, never is. It's no dependence. Self-control is clear. But all mothers and also fathers, I can tell you stories of fathers, want to control their children for the good. Is that a try that is impossible? Yes or no? Can you control the children? Thank God it doesn't work. It would be evil if mother could just control the child's mind, would it? But how many mothers tried? And do they have a strong will? Do they? Do they know what they want? Yes. And so their strongness and mother's weakness, and boom, it comes together. You see, I have got used myself whenever I have children and mothers coming to my practice to see who is the stronger. You just see that when they come in, you know that? You just see that because the mother says, oh, don't touch anything. You know, when you come to an ENT, he has a lot of stuff there around, and mother says to the child, don't touch anything. Does the child hear? Oh, it needs some hearing aids. I come to the, doctor, I say, the child doesn't listen. I know. Why does the child not listen? Because they have their own mind. They have their freedom. And so it's very important to know no mother can control her child. And this mother tries to control her 5-year-old daughter, and she cannot do that. And that stress, that conflict makes her the noise. So, is that rationality that we fight with each other? Yes or no? No. How many people are here that don't fight? I didn't ask the other person. Why are we doing that? Because with our reason we understand it's nothing that is smart. So let's put together stress, anxiety and fear, and conflicts and depressions. They are all, why do humans do this to themselves? Why is irrationality stronger than reason? Have you ever asked yourself that? Yes or no? I found people that are struggling with anger for years, and they say, I pray to God, He should take away my anger. I said, you can pray long enough, it will never happen. Because you need to understand what drives you into that anger, what brings you there. Why does medicine have no solution for stress, anxiety, depression, and chronic disease? Why do we don't have that? You know why? Why we are so blind? Because we have no knowledge of ourselves. You know that? The problem in our medical world, and also in the, I could call it the Christian world, the spiritual world, is there is no knowledge of humanity. So let's see the two things that make our life miserable and sick. There are two things that are there and to overcome the causes. It's first our knowledge. That's why I give my seminars, to change that. I'm going against a knowledge. A knowledge in things that matters. We know a lot of things, do we? People come to me and said, I read 1,000 books. I said, very well. How much do you know yourself? There's no knowledge of ourselves. People don't even know why they think what they think. They don't know why they do what they do. They're ignorant of how they were made to work. They don't know the structure. They don't know the functions. And if they know something, it's theirs, and they don't know the basic laws of nature that govern their being. So the first thing that we need to solve is our knowledge. We have to become, from unknowledge people, we have to become with the knowledge of ourselves, of our structure, of the law that governs it. That matters. If you know your neighbor, what's his problems, that doesn't matter. If you know the news, that doesn't matter. If you know what anyone does, it does not matter. But what matters is what you know about yourself. And then the next thing is the incapacity. You're not capable for what? What can you not do? Build cars? Can you build cars? Yes, you can. Can you do computers? Yes, you can. You can do a lot of things, but what you cannot do is to control yourself. Anyone here that says, I can control myself? We can try it to see if anyone can control himself. You just need to what? Provoke him. And then immediately you know if he has control or not. There is a total incapacity in humanity to control himself. He does not control his thoughts. And most, maybe my patient says, I cannot control my thoughts. Yes, as long as you don't know where they arise from, you have no control. Because you don't know where they come from. But do thoughts have a beginning? Do they have a wellspring or not? Do they must come from somewhere? Yes, we must know where they come from. So, because if we don't have the capacity to control ourselves, and that starts with our thoughts, then how much worth is all our knowledge? So knowledge and incapacities are the two things we have to change in our life. We must first know, and second, be able to do. Because disease, all the problems that humans have come from here. And I don't make the all not absolute. It's all because we have no knowledge and have no capacities. Because if we would have this too, we would have never stress, never fear, never fight with each other. We would just be free agents. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm just going on that trip or on that journey, and I hope one day to be fully knowledge what matters and full capable to govern my life as God made me to do it. My actions. So, how do we approach the study that we will have in this week? We have a mind, and we will talk about that tomorrow more. And our mind is like a scale. Does any information come to our mind that we don't measure? No, we must measure every information. It goes very fast, it goes subconsciously, but we evaluate everything we hear, we see, we taste, we cannot do it without. The mind must evaluate all information, and it must evaluate information according to a pattern. What is the thing that matters in evaluation? So here comes the information on one side, and what is it there that will make you to take the information in or to reject the information? What is it? That is there, so to say, the measurement for if you take something in or not. What is it? No, the judgment is the process. Yes, the scale is a judge. Yes, it's a process of thinking, of evaluation. But with what do you evaluate? It is the truth. Oh, this computer. It's the truth. Yes? You will never take anything in if you don't believe it. Yes? Everything you believe, you let in. And the mind works like that, that if you once believe something, next time you don't check it anymore. Yes, that's how it simplifies, that's how we learn. You don't need to check something again and again if you once checked it. But now if you let in information without really having a clear understanding of the truth, then you will just be in a situation where you don't know what is the truth. What is the truth? And I think that's the most important question. What is the truth? And I want to see that something is wrong in society. Why would we not be all on the same page in science? Why not? Why would we not have the psychologists, the philosophers, the clergy, and the physicians having the same opinion? How many opinions do you have different in physicians and in psychologists? Yes? They have some common things, but usually you have to go to more than once to get any things, and then you get more confused because everyone has his own view. Why is it so? Because everyone has a subjective foundation. He interprets and evaluated, everyone evaluated by its own capacity. Yes? So it's not a defined thing, and this is like a cloud, you know, a cloud is something that is not defined, it's just changing all the time. It's not there. And if you have a subjective foundation, evidently you can never be right. And this is what we have in medicine. You cannot say in medicine, this is so. You can only say this might be so. But I'm not satisfied with that. Because I know in nature everything is totally set. There is no, it can be so, it is so. But let's see a little bit how we are used to think and how deceptive that way of thinking is. Do you think that this pen has a fixed length? Is that length fixed? Yes. Now how do we find it out? How long it is? Now, can we estimate the length of this? Can we estimate it? Yes. Now let's do this test in our minds. Every one of you estimates this pen, how long it is, and then it's writing down and we make a statistic, and then we know how this pen is. Yes or no? Do we know it or not? No. That's the kind of way we do science today. We estimate something without having a measurement for it. And if you estimate something without having a measurement for it, you must be in a cloud. You must be somewhere outside of the situation, because you can never say it is so. But this thing has a absolute length and width and, you know, an absolute function. Do you think humanity is so or not? Do you think the humans is built like that? Yes, of course. He has a certain length. He has parameters. You need to be able to measure them. By what do you measure it? Let me ask you a question. If you want to become an eye doctor, how many eyes do you need to know? You need one, or maybe you need 2 eyes, because every eye is in structure the same. Yes? Yes, it is the same. And in function it is the same. And then if it doesn't function well, or its structure is not, it's damaged, it has a dysfunction. How many ears do you need to know as an ENT? Yes, they are a little bit different, but in the end, the structure is identical. Now, how many humans do you need to know all of them? Now, that's the question. They think it's more different than what I asked before, but it's exactly the same. Because there is one human structure, because we are all functioning the same. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. The structure is identical. The way we work is clear, it's set. What do we miss then to know how we work? So, as humans, we were smart enough to find a measurement for length and brightness, did we? And we said if it's the metric system, or if it's the how you call the American system? Yeah, the English system, so you get with the inches, and here are the centimeters. Yes? Does it matter? No, it's just, we agreed to it so that we can build houses. Can you build houses on estimation? Yes or no? No, but humans. So there cannot be a house made because if you said, oh, this might be straight, so let's build on that. Would that be something that any builder would do? At the end, how would the house be? Yes, in waves, it would not stand. So, we need a system to measure so that we can say this is as long as it has to be. Now, would you know what is this? This is a tool that you need, that has to be outside of your mind so that you can put your mind on something that is clear. Here, you only evaluate what your mind is able to evaluate by itself. Yes, I need my mind to say, this is, how long do you think it is? I cannot see it in English, the same in centimeters. I don't have the inches here. But, would you believe me if I would tell it to you? Well, would you believe me if I would tell it to you? I hope not. Because how do you know that I'm not lying to you? You know that's not good to trust any doctor. No, I could say also pastor. I could say any human being. How do you know that he can measure right? I might be half blind. Yes? So, one thing that is very bad is that we trust authority. We trust humans and think if they have learned it, they will teach it to us correctly. But you will find me asking the question, how can you prove your point? Because there is one thing that can prove all points, and that is the measurement. And this measurement is something all of us can put their trust into, can it? Would you argue with this measurement? Would you say, my estimation is better than that? Would you? Maybe some would do. You know, some people do everything. But it would be not, you would not take that into account. So, the problem that we have no measurement. We have no measure that is outside of our own interpretation. I need to read this, but this is nothing that I can interpret. This is only what I take into knowledge. I know now this thing is 15 and 1 millimeter. Yes, 15 centimeters, 1 millimeter. So I know this now, but I put my knowledge not on something I estimated, but what I saw on this measurement. That is objectivity. If we would all have the same measurement, how much disunity would we have? Would we have disunity? No, we would all be united. We would have no contradictions in us. And you see, if we would have this, it has here the inches as well, you see? That's nice. So, if we would just have this, how would be our opinions? You see, we would have an objective foundation that no one would put into question by his own interpretation, because we all would acknowledge, yes, we have to acknowledge, we have to measure each one for ourselves. We should never believe anyone, and I hope at the end of the week you don't believe me anything. Because true science is not based on faith. True science is based on facts. And we know that. But you know, we all believe things we can never prove. And so is built science on. If I tell you any story of statistics, you must believe them, because you cannot prove it. You must believe me that I saw 5,000 patients, and I did this and that with them, and I came out with this, and you now say, yes, that sounds good. Let me try to explain. I had a patient not long ago, and he slept every night with a cap, how you call this? Yes, on his head, because he found out sometimes, 20 years ago, that when he doesn't sleep with the head, the next morning he has a pain in his throat. And his wife said, I will do the tests. And one night his wife took the head out, and guess what happened the next day? He had sore throat, a sore in his throat. So she had the evidence. Yes, this is I call it evidence-based medicine. Yeah, that's evidence-based medicine. So you take off the cap, and if he has the next morning, a pain in his throat, then you've proven the cap is the problem. Yes? Now he comes to me in my practice, and they're sitting there, his wife and him, and he says, I also put some cotton wool in my ears, because during the day the wind might blow yeah, and I say, okay, God forgot something to put in our ears. So, however, I explained to him, I said, look, between your throat pain and your cap that you wear in the night, there is no correlation. There is no connection at all. It doesn't matter if it happens. It doesn't matter if you have a sore throat the other morning because you didn't put in your head. That head and your throat pain has no connection. There is no law for it. There isn't. If you prove me with any natural law that there is a correlation between smoke and cancer, then I believe you. But you all believe that between smoke and cancer there is a correlation, do you? Have you ever proven it? You see, I'm born as a skeptic. I always was a doubter by nature. I never believed anything. And I'm glad for it. It brought me a lot of trouble, but it also brought me a lot of understanding, because I want to have my feet staying on something that I've proven. And I told the gentleman, you have no law for it. After a few weeks, his wife came back to me and said, you know what happens? He doesn't wear his cap anymore, and he has no cotton wool anymore in his ear because he forgot it. I say, no, it's just reason that won the battle. If there is no law for it, you don't believe it. That's why everything I want to present must be based. Yes, it's in interpretation. I say it with my words, but it must be based on something you can prove yourself without needing to believe me. That's, I think, is science. Science is something that is solid, that you can check, that you can measure yourself, and when you see it, you can handle it or do it or not. Anything else is just faith, is believing without having a foundation for it. And I don't think a scientist should have no foundation. You should have something that is not contradictable, that you cannot change with your own mind, where you cannot come up and say, oh, but my mind, my opinion is this. There is no opinion with that, is it? Is there any opinion with this? So I hope you got that point. We will put this as a measurement that is outside of our opinion, because we all have an opinion, but we must prove it if it's correct or not. So let's see the 4 things on which I put all my foundation. Someone once, I got this question at the end of my seminar. It was in December in London. A lady asked me, because she couldn't quite grasp all that I said, and she said, do you have any reference for what you teach? And I say, I have only 4 references. And those are these 4 things. They are my reference. The first is the fundamental law of all beings. There's a fundamental law that governs everything. It governs also our functions. And this fundamental law is not known to us, even though we know it. But we don't know it in function. It's just we are totally blind to the law, how it works. And you see in the back there are those, like the 10 Commandments, and the fundamental law is also in the 10 Commandments, but we won't see what it is, how it works. And that is our orientation. We must have something. We measure things without having a doubt they are precise. Yes, we have to measure it. We have to maybe control it once or twice if we have seen right. But if we once measured it, then we know it is so, because we put our trust on that measurement, and that must be the law. Then there is the structure. Do you think that our human structure is fixed? That is, we have one structure and how we work? Yes. That's why we can have common things. We can have common disease. We have common. We are all built of 2 eyes and 1 nose and whatever we have. Yes, there are components of our structure, and all structures must be put together from the beginning, and they are unchangeable. The way we were made to function, that is how we were put together, is non-changeable. You don't find the eyes on your toes. Do you? No, you find them in your head. So those things are not, that's what I mean with structure. There must be a way to understand where things start and where they end. And that structure is unchangeable. That is like this pen. This pen was made, and you cannot change it. You can break it, but the one that made it like it should work and it should be. The second thing is the power and our basic needs. Do you know what you need that your life should work well? You know what gives you the power? You know what you live from, or you don't know? And I must say, as a medical doctor, I didn't really know it. And a doctor should know it, should he? He should exactly know humanity. He should know humanity works with this. This is the power in his life. And when he has this dysfunction, he must know why the dysfunction is. Because you see, the 4th thing that is unchangeable is function. So we are a structure, we need energy that we might function, and the law governs all of them. So that's how I could simply put it together. And if we would have that, we could never fail. We could fail, measure them, but we could never fail in interpretation. Because yes, we have to learn, but we have to put our feet on something that is not changeable. If you think, and if you come up and say, oh, this is my mind, this is my opinion, this is what I came up, then you have to know why you did that. If not, your mind is the only measurement, and that is subjective. I don't want to put my mind on my mind. So I cannot put my feet on my feet. I have to put them on something that is solid. If not, I will change it. And if my feet can change the underground, then it's not secure. And my mind cannot change the underground. It must put something there that is objective. So let's put all four together in one picture to see a little bit how they work together. So this is the law of life. Inside of it, humans were made to work, and life is conditioned by our needs. If all needs would be fulfilled, we would have a normal function. Yes? Health would be 100%. Now that means that when we are outside of this, then our needs are not fulfilled, so we have this function that we call disease. So I like the function idea because it's more technical, yes, function, dysfunction, yes, and you can only have a dysfunction when something is missing. When something that which was needed and by the law fixed is not there. So then, of course, we can have death when we go beyond that tolerance that we have, and then we have no function. So normal function, dysfunction, and no function. That's how it works. And from here, we still can go back, but when we are here, there is no way back. So let's see how many needs does humanity have. What is there? How many kind of needs? And of course, you all know you need to drink and you eat, do you? To dress and to keep your body warm. And I'm happy that this week the weather forecast is good, and I can warm my bones, so to say, in the sun, because I like warm weather. I don't like the cold one. But yes, you are in a place where it's also warm sometimes, yes. So I'm glad that it's warm now. So whenever we have a need, the body was so made to show his need through a symptom. So you see the symptom, you have a body reaction when you come at the border of your need. And you have that on both sides, because on physical level we have a balance. You must have exactly the balance that you are there. If not, you have too much or too less, but both bring you into dysfunction. So on physical level, we need always to keep that balance that was set by the law. Or can you change that balance? Can you change your temperature and say, oh, I now work with another temperature? It is not possible. So that's why we are freezing when it's cold and we are sweating when it's warm. And so do we understand the body reaction? Do we understand it? Does the body exactly tell us what's the problem? Yes, because we all know what is freezing and sweating. We all know what is hunger and thirst. We all know what is tiredness, yes, or being not tired. We all know this. But when you get in the morning that ear noise in your ear, or when in the middle of the night you get your heart attack, what do you miss? What is it that you miss when things come that come during the night or they come unexpected to you? What is that body reaction? Because it's a physical body reaction. And do you know what you miss then? So I didn't know. So if you don't find the problem in the food, if you don't find it in the tiredness, then yes, there is, the doctor says, that's psychosomatic or that's stress. Yes, just an overworked. But how does stress appear? Why do you have something that bothers your mind? Do you have mind needs? And I must admit that in my practice, my first 2.5 years, I was most challenged because I found out that my patients having a physical disease because of a spiritual need. Because a conflict is a physical thing. Do you fight for what do you fight in your marriage? Do you fight for food? Yes or no? No, for what do you fight in your marriage? You fight for love, for time. Yes, women fight for time. I know. They never get enough. I mean, from time. It's just It's just a funny thing, yes. Almost all women, they have this one thing: my husband doesn't care for me enough. I say, poor guy. Why should he care? Women cannot take care for themselves. But we come to that as well. So we must know, why do we have conflicts? And I discovered in my practice that humans need love. Now tell me, they need righteousness, liberty, security, and we will see tomorrow all the spiritual needs that the human has. And those are expressed through thoughts. And so, yes, then my question is, how does it come that you have a physical problem from a spiritual thought? Because, let me ask you a question. It's a trick question, don't answer too fast, because my questions are always tricky questions. Because they go into our subconscious, or no, our just things that we learned and we never checked if they're true or not. So what is love? A physical thing, chemistry or no chemistry? How many atoms do you find in love? Or in righteousness? Or in security? How many atoms do we have there? So is love chemistry or no chemistry? I have one no. Is there a yes as well? Pardon? State of being? What? Well, yes. Well, it's not a state of being. It's an action that makes a physical reaction. But what is love? Is it chemical or not? I'm happy that you say, oh no, because some people would dare to say it's chemistry. It's oxytocin or dopamine. You will hear that. Or serotonin. You know? And if you take that and say to me, and I have patients, or when I'm speaking in my doing my lectures, then some people say, yes, love is chemistry. I said, very well, come in front, give me the chemical formula. Pardon? Yes. That's a good answer. Chocolate. Yes, was that chocolate? Yeah. Yeah. I would be glad if love or righteousness would be just something you can put into a bottle. I would just have my patient say, "Oh, you have dizziness." And I just had recently this old lady. She was 77 years old, and her right vestibular organ or nerve was really damaged, and no one could damage it from outside. It was just her thoughts. For 2 months, she couldn't hardly walk, and she has also depression. And I said, what's going on in your life? And for 4 years, she's fighting against her son because her son wants to take away the house that she inherited 4 years ago from her mother that passed away. She has 3 children, and she says the oldest one, didn't go so well with his finances. Now he comes and says, this is his house, and she just tries to keep it, but it's not the house. What is it that she misses? She says, my son does to me unrighteousness. Imagine you're 77-year-old and your son comes and says, Mom, this is mine. Would you like it? Now just go to the doctor, and the doctor has some righteousness pills. And then he just fixed the problem. Would you be glad? Oh, I would be the most best doctor, because I would have righteousness pills. I would have security pills for anxiety. You have for all needs, liberty pills. Oh, you don't feel free? Because there was a girl, 13 years old, and she came with her parents to my practice, and she says, I'm living at home like in a prison. There are many girls that live at home like in a prison. And I said to the girl, do you know that is a deception? You are free to do anytime, whatever we want. Parents don't like me when I say that. But that's the truth. But why cannot the girl do what she wants? Yeah? Why does she want something from her parents to give her liberty? Liberty? Can you get it somewhere? I would just say, look, take this and you're free. Don't worry about parents. They have their own life. Just free. There is no such thing. And what was bothering me, or what I was thinking about, is how can I prove ever, and you must understand we have 6 foster children, and at that time it was still home, 3 were there still, they're all siblings, and I went home each night telling the stories of my patients to them. And I said, this ear was ringing, or this ear was running, because there was a love issue, a relationship issue. And they laughed about me. They were 14, 16, and 18 years old. And when you have this kind of teenagers, and you tell them that their nose is running because of a relationship issue, they laugh about you. I said, how will you ever prove that? I said, but it is so, I have no other thing to put it there by exclusion. But you see, they put me on the right track, because I said, I have to prove what I say. Do you need love or not? Yes or no? Yes. How do you know? How do you know you need love? Isn't it just an imagination? Is it not just something that is pure subjective? Yes or no? Can we measure it? No. That's why science will ever go into love? Will science ever go into love? Or righteousness? Don't worry, it never will happen. Science says love is an emotion. That's why we'll speak today about emotional things. You won't hear the word emotion from me as being a need. Emotions are no need. We have never emotional needs. We are only spiritual needs. Emotions are chemistry. When we see tonight, next night, we will see the brain and how those things work. We will see that emotions are effects, no causes. You never need to heal your emotions. You just need to heal your thinking. Emotions are just showing what you're thinking subconsciously. They give you either a good feeling or a bad feeling. And those are, of course, measured also how strong those are. Fear, anxiety, how does it feel? Does it feel good? I tell you, I'm an experienced fearful man. And I know what panic attacks are, and I know how they work. And I know them in person on how I had them, and I know there can never be a panic attack without a thought before that feeling. But you don't see the thought, you don't think him consciously, but your feeling proves by the law that you must have a thought before you had that feeling. Emotions are secondary, they are effects. So they just come to show us what we think. That's why in science you will have love as an emotion. But there is no such things, because emotions are chemistry. You know that? Emotions are dopamine and oxytocin or serotonin or the lack of it or whatever it is for that. Emotions are just chemistry. And since science goes from a picture of man that is pure scientific, pure materialistic, that's why they must put love. They cannot deny it, can they? Because it's evident. But let's give him a physical name, so then we just can treat it physically with all kinds of things. We can treat those things by giving antidepressants or whatever. But we need to know that thoughts and spiritual needs are non-physical, and we still have them. Love is purely spiritual. It's just what you think. You cannot put it in a bottle. You cannot even describe it. We only on the body can measure it, that it is there, and on our mind see it, that we need it. Why would you run after righteousness if you don't need it? Why would you say, I never found a person that says to me, I like when someone lied unto me. You always get angry. You see angry persons when they realize someone lied unto them. I say, why? Be happy, he lied, no problem. It's just a thought. It's just imagination. It doesn't exist. But does it exist? Does truth and lie exist? Yes. So how? So for me, that was a new discovery. For 2.5 years, I was trying to get convinced that love is a need for the body. That's something spiritual you need, that your kidney works well, that you get no kidney stones. Of course, as an ENT, I go now in all the body. We don't have stones in the nose, but it doesn't matter. You get sometimes stones in the sinuses or wherever they grow. And they're a metabolic thing that must have a cause. So I found out that spiritual needs have no limits because they are either or. You see, in the physical one, you have a balance. But in the spiritual one, you have either 100% security or no security. You cannot say, I have 99% truth. Can you? No. So you must know there must be a either or. So how many body reactions do we have from lacking love? How do you think? It's 9 out of 10 disease. So almost all our diseases, we can exclude other things are from our mind, from our thoughts. Now tell me, what do you do most in life? You eat, to drink, sleep, or think? Thinking. And isn't it amazing that in medicine, thinking doesn't play a role? That what humans do most is just missed most in medicine. You see, there are two things that medicine and religion have in common. You know what they have? They miss the most important thing. What is it? Love. Do you? Do you find religious people loving people? I was grown up in the church, but I haven't experienced loving people. Love is never in the center, is it? We speak about love, but we like to fight. In medicine, you miss love totally. When you go to the doctor, he'd never, or maybe some, will ask you, what do you think, lady, today? How is your life going? Does the doctor have the time for that? No. I was a doctor as an ENT. You do 70 patients in 5 hours. 70 patients in 5 hours. How much do you have time to talk to the patient? If God would have not put a few angels before my door to let just one in 1 hour, I would have never got out what I have to know today. Because you cannot talk to the patients in a rush, can you? Just say, oh, your nose is running. Let's see, what's the problem? If you don't have the time, how can you treat it? And the most important thing in humanity is what he thinketh. It's all going around love and righteousness and liberty and security and truth. And if the whole life goes around this is just a support of it. You know Maslow and his pyramid of needs? You know he lied all to us? No one checked him? He filled that pyramid only with physical things, a little bit on the top. He said those are spiritual things. Do you know that your dog needs more love than food? And your cat as well, if you have them? It's amazing. We had a dog and a cat. Now we have a cat. But I learned a lot of animals. Yes, they have their first need, love, as well as humans. Food is needed, but it is always secondary, not primary. Our dog didn't eat when my wife was not at home. Yes, she could not leave because the dog wouldn't eat. And we couldn't take him with us. It was a big Saint Bernard dog. Yeah, so you cannot carry him after that. And so he was just put on diet. I mean, he was a slim dog. It was good, but that was a funny thing. And our dog reacted to my wife. I could always see how the inner life of my wife was on the dog. It's amazing. Because dogs, they need something that is spiritual. You know that dogs and cats get the same diseases that humans have? You know it? And they get it from the same thing, like humans. I can tell you many stories with my patients, and I even had a veterinary doctor, and she confirmed it to me, that you have to look to the owner of the animal to know what's the problem in the dog. Because dogs get disc failures, you know that? They never lift heavy weights. But they get, the disc is removed and they got paralyzed or whatever they got. They got diabetes type 1. They probably ate too much chocolate. They ate too much sweets. I had a patient who got, his cat got, when he went into the hospital to be 6 or 7 weeks there because he got cancer, to be treated, his cat almost died because she didn't eat and she got a high fever, she got diarrhea. The doctor kept her alive through perfusions and all this. And then he came home and he lived for further 2 years. I treated this patient for 2 years and then he died. And I took care for the widow after that. And I was very curious what happens with the cat. You know, 5 months later, the cat had diabetes type 1. Is that a funny thing? And just proves that the cat needs love. And it needs a love source. So, I know this is the first introduction tonight, I won't keep you longer. But we always need to think, we will study about an hour and a half, yes? Because the things cannot be said. They could be said in very fast things, but I want to think, to give reason a chance to think and not just take over the things like a material. And by the end of the week, I hope we all got the same understanding of ourselves, and we'll start to getting better. No fights anymore, no stress, no anxiety, everything going to be fixed. Is that nice? It's a good perspective, is it? I like it. And then your headaches will go away, and your bowel movement will be better, or whatever you have. It will just be fixed, because that's how it works. So I usually give a chance every night for questions. So feel free to ask questions. I also, I think there on the invitation says that if someone wants to talk to me during this week, we can do counseling. And so that's what we can do. And if there are no questions tonight, I promise you something, on the last night there are no questions. Is that nice? Because when it comes to an end, there must be no questions. I mean, then the things must be round, it must be a nice overview, and you now know what we have to do. And yes, there is room for study, but there should be those questions that I always hear the same questions every time. And I'm now for 8-9 years on the way to do these seminars, and you never hear a new question. You always hear the same one. And so I hope at the last night the questions will be answered. But it's good to have questions. They clarify things if misunderstandings are there. So feel free to ask each night the questions. We will have maybe music. My wife, when she gets out of her jet lag, will play some music each night with her violin, so then you can think better. And then we can talk after that again. So thank you for listening, and have a good evening. Pastor, you.